All right, we're back. It's Thursday, March 19th, day 3 of our isolation shelter in place here with the Gunderman Group, and we're back with some more thoughts on what we're seeing in the market. So, David, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think the thing that it's such a, I mean, the world changes every day, doesn't it? The thing that we have been talking about mostly is and Hans, you just articulated it so beautifully, is like, where does our fiduciary duty to our clients begin, end or begin, and where does the sort of social responsibility begin? And it's just a very complicated question. I mean, we are so programmed to serve our clients' needs and take care of their emotional and financial well-being, but we have this enormous responsibility to our society at large to make responsible choices right now, and that's got to be, I think, our guiding light. It has to be our guiding light. I mean, when you read articles and you look at the math of how to contain and control this virus, it really is about people staying at home. So we need to figure out how to best serve our clients while staying within that edict, because that's vital to the health of human beings and our society at large. So along those lines, I think the biggest topic we can possibly talk about, and stopping there, CAR came out with something yesterday, basically saying that people should not be doing private showings. That came out, a few people saw it. I was actually really touched that Karen Miller, who's a colleague of ours, who we used to work very closely with, reached out immediately to make us aware of that as well when she saw it. So the California Association of Realtors is really saying, no private showings, none of that. So that's interesting. It's definitely taken that up a notch. But so where that puts us is in a place where we have to be increasingly intelligent and creative in terms of our marketing right now. We have to, and I think that's probably the topic of the moment, is how do we, there's obviously we don't know how long this is going to last. Let me just sort of capture this idea here, which is one of the things I find intriguing at the moment is that, typically we go on several listing appointments every single week, and those have ended. There are no listing appointments happening right now. So there's going to come a moment when this thing ends and there's not going to be much inventory at all. And there's always sort of a ramp up for people to get their homes on the market. So there's going to be a moment when people who are near ready or ready and all that sort of, all those sort of phases are going to have, could be the early, the early bird that catches the worm. So I think whatever we can do to push people down the road in terms of their marketing and their prep, in terms of the photography and just building energy through photography, through social media, and all that sort of stuff, will help them be some of the early people to launch. Because what we've seen historically is within the Bay Area, when there's a shift in the economy, we recover fairly fast. Real estate as a rule tends to lag behind the broader economy, but the Bay Area lags less. So I think the more we can do to sort of get creative in our marketing and get word out and build energy, that's probably the best thing we can do for our listing clients right now.
Yeah. And David, that pent up demand situation, like normally we see that pop sometime in February, typically after the holidays and after all the festivities are over and everyone kind of gets back to normal life. We saw that, but not to the same extent that we normally see it this year. And I think we can all agree that we saw just a lack of inventory, for especially given the size of the buyer pool and the interest rates, how low they were. And that we're still seeing 7, sometimes 10 offers on houses even this week, like yesterday. And we're still seeing multiple offers, right?
Today. We have 8 confirmed on a house today. Sorry, I interrupted.
And where I'm going with this is it still shocks me that there's that much interest given what's going on, and there's still people who want to transact. I was talking to a buddy of mine who does commercial leases in San Francisco. So he works with a lot of the tech firms, and he's kind of got this niche of small, medium-sized, like 5 to 25 person offices. And that obviously represents a huge bulk of the rental portfolio or rental space down in downtown, who are constantly turning over. And what he's seeing is a lot of those people are staying true to the course, going through with their leases, trying to create leases. Some of them have definitely backed out, but generally the demand for office space, thus jobs and growth, is still there as far as he can see. He personally was concerned about this work from home thing that we're all experiencing right now, and how that may affect the way companies view their office space and their, you know, their the way that they work with their workforce going forward. But generally, you know, the jobs, as we see, kind of drive the housing, you know, because of the income and the need to be close to your work. And I think we're still seeing that in our market right now. And I think that after this ban or the shelter in place is lifted, you're going to see a huge just drive into the housing market in May, which is probably I'm assuming it happens in May. Who knows when it happens? But if it happens in May, that's usually a slower time for us. So it'll be a really bizarre year.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely going to be a bizarre. It is the most bizarre year ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to know where this is all headed. But yeah, all the seasonality, all rules are gone. The seasonalities are going to be disrupted. Everything's disrupted. So we'll see. It does feel like there will be pent up demand, provided we find some economic stability. Yeah, and I assume that's all going to be hinged to something that gives people a sense of an ending, some sort of, you know, vaccine development or cure development, or something that gives people optimism. We're probably going to start to see, you know, the numbers of new cases go down, which is going to be no time soon. I don't think we're just seeing these numbers blow up. So very strange times. But so getting back to creative marketing, we need to get, you know, while we have this time, we need to get the people out there, get their energy out there, get the energy of the videos that we've already produced and the photos we've already produced. We have a lot of what you're seeing, a lot of this transparent pricing. The hard thing is that these are homes people have not seen, they have not walked into. And it's hard to imagine that anyone's going to transact on a house if they can't walk into it and experience it. So it may just be a lot of coming soon energy for a while.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I got an email yesterday or 2 days ago from Redfin saying, I don't know how I felt about their title, but they were like, "We've been preparing for a moment like this," was the title. And I was like, okay,
oh yeah, I saw that too. I
I got that too.
It was all about their virtual tours and online. Yep. Yeah.
And, you know, 3D Matterports and, you know, 4K video and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it'll be really interesting to see, because there's been a huge conversation around, you know, digital showings and virtual showings and that sort of thing just before all of this happened, and now to see if that actually leads to transactions, because that could change the way that we market houses, or it could prove that people need to go walk through them to actually spend $1 million on a home.
Right. Or there might be a moment where, you know, we have several houses that are vacant right now and are ready to go. There might be a moment where somebody has, I mean, there's exceptions to every rule. There may be a moment where somebody is desperately in need of housing and the house is vacant, and somehow someone manages to open it up and they take a walkthrough and they know the transparent price and they transact. You know, there may be some exceptions where it becomes socially, you know, acceptable for a person to step into a home who's in an you know, in some kind of urgent crisis. I don't know what that is, but generally speaking, people should stay out of the community. And then the other thing becomes, like Eric asked a minute ago, was talking a minute ago about, you know, what in terms of the trajectory of a transaction, who's working, who's not working. You know, do we have appraisers? Do we have notaries? We do have title. The county recorder has been on again, off again. It's just, one of the dilemmas we've been facing right now is that we have a couple of houses that are teed up to close and we can't get the staging out. There's no way to get the staging out of this house right now. The stagers have shut down, and you know, it would be inappropriate for us to have the stagers go over there and take the staging out. So it's just crazy.
Challenges, yeah.
Challenges. So we're trying to put contracts in place to extend the escrow or to allow the staging furniture to live there for a while. It's so layered.
Yeah. And when you look at something as simple as getting staging out, I think it sort of tees itself up to a bigger question, which unfortunately I don't think we have answers, but hopefully if we keep having these conversations, keep asking them, we'll come to some clarity, which is, you know, it's someone's private property, either the seller or if they close, it's the buyer. And then when can they demand that someone remove stuff off their private property? I mean, and you know, our fiduciary responsibility as agents, you know, where like do we get to a point where we're all, you know, in this place that we've we've lost our center, or can we all sort of come together and like make amends? And thus far, I think I have to give credit to the agent community at large. We've been very cooperative across the board and really transparent, and all of a sudden wanting to work with one another. And I don't know if you all have seen it, but just if I go walk my dog around the block, I've noticed that I've made more eye contact and more sort of engagement with basically everybody that I see, because there's this collective, like we're in this together all of a sudden.
Right.
And then taking that into a real estate context, like I've called or texted people about houses, and then they give me very honest feedback, which 3 weeks ago I would have had to pry with a crowbar out of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm hopeful for humanity to some degree that we can all learn from this and be like, okay, there are bigger things than our little transactions here, and we can maybe use this as a jumping off point to be a little bit more cordial and a little more cooperating with one another.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, I think, you know, people, especially now in tech companies, many people are working from home, going a little stir crazy. There's very little going on. Like you can only watch so much Netflix shows during the day. And I think any interaction people can have, I think they're looking for it. And, you know, kind of to Han's point, just starting conversations and just reaching out. Like people are very engaged. And, you know, sometimes when we go into topics of real estate, like people are interested. They want to know like what's going on in the market, what's the trends. You know, if there are ways for them to see properties. You know, I've actually had someone ask, like, you know, they're actually interested in investing, and they want to see, like, are there creative ways for them to hear more about properties? Like, are sellers willing to show through their own videos? And that's something that we talked about, right? And that could be interesting ways for them to engage in real estate, but still be at home.
Absolutely. That's what we're asking sellers to do is to shoot videos on their own phones and send us the links and that sort of stuff, so we can build, you know, a walkthrough marketing campaign. Fortunately, our videographers had several videos already in the can, but some were not ready to be shot yet. So yeah, video is everything right now, and I'm really grateful for the videos we have, and then we'll just lean on the homeowners to do the videos that we don't have.
Yeah.
And
I'm just wondering if people are going to be doing more coming soons, populating the coming soon area of the MLS.
Oh, for
What are your
sure.
thoughts on
Makes
that?
total sense. Just whet everybody's appetite for the future, I think, is what we should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, like we talked about, maybe May, who knows if it's May, maybe it's April, maybe it's July at this point, who knows? But if you can get your client teed up, because what do we talk about? Like, we can't guarantee you the highest price, but we can do everything we can to get you the highest price in this market, in today's market. And I think today is very different than 2 days ago. So to Johanna's point, like, how do you tee that up so that, you know, you are honoring your fiduciary? And that's probably one of them, like giving them the best shot to get the best price, or to get into the best house if you're representing a buyer. I will say that one thing I haven't heard come up yet, and maybe this is just because it's now a back burner item, was, you know, on January 1st, we had this whole thing in the agent community about no more coming soons and no more off markets. And then we had until what it was, June or July 1st,
May.
right?
I think that's
comply,
over.
right? And again, maybe they're just like, well, you know, drastic times calls for drastic measures. We'll readdress this when we get back to
The normal.
reality a little bit. But
I would hope that that's over, but I also really hope that the brokerages don't use that to try to push their brand. That, you know, like we have some kind of coming soon platform that's, you know, I hope people are bring their best self to this and are cooperative and share across brokerages with that stuff. because that change in rules was about trying to keep people from trying to double in properties, which is absolutely
Exactly.
appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right.
so hopefully, maybe we'll even find a moment here where we realize that there's value in the off market as long as brokerages are acting in a really, really thoughtful and cooperative way. I'm sorry, Hans, I sort of cut you off there.
Well, no, but I mean, as I recall, according to the mandate, it was up to the individual MLS and realtor associations to enforce that, and they had by the end of June, I believe, to comply. And we never heard anything about how they were going to enforce that. And obviously now their offices are literally closed. So maybe we're back to a little bit the Wild West, and it's on an agent by agent basis how they want to cooperate. But again, I've been impressed with our colleagues and the way that our team has handled everything of being cooperative, being forthcoming, and still trying to keep our clients as at the front of everything as humanly possible.
Yeah. The other thing, just a quick change of topic, but I have a little theory brewing of why the houses that we have had on the market or got through one open house weekend, why they're doing so well. And I think it's just because we all know there is this pent up demand. And I think the buyer pool that is looking to transact right now is struggling to see other homes. Like, this is the stuff that's available right now and that you've actually walked into. So I think that's actually causing the houses that are there to do really well because there is low inventory and you can't get out and see much of anything. So what you have seen, if you need to buy a house, you may be even more likely to put your energy there.
And David, you sent out an email this morning that you were tracking some of the other agents' transactions, and there was the house in Alameda that took offers on Garfield, and you thought maybe that had transacted slightly lower as a result. And that might be the first time I've heard that yet, because up until now we've actually seen a lot of aggressive price or aggressively priced offers, and this is maybe the first time that we haven't seen that. Would you agree, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, it was definitely this week. Last week, we had 3 houses that really set record prices. This week we had this one house that had 35 packets out. It ended up with 7 offers. I think in different times we probably would have had closer to 12 or 13 offers. We definitely had several people say, "Oh, my client was going to write, but they're not writing now because there's been so much financial stuff going on." It's hard to know what that house would have done if it had gone on the market. There was time we were sort of talking about 1.6 for this house. It did have a high pest report on it though, and there were other issues. So, it ended up transacting very well. I wouldn't say it was an A+ transaction, in terms of like if we were to turn back the clock and see how it did, but it was still clearly like an A- B+. And the sellers were thrilled. And it may have been fairly close to what it would have garnered anyway. I suspect it shed something in the 5-7% off of what it may have done if it were really if everything was humming along like it normally does. And that makes sense because what happened this week was recession locked in. Yeah. But then again, I'm actually feeling as we get towards the end of the week, which is strange, that I'll be curious. I guess I should say I'll be curious to see what the next few offer dates do, because again, I think that people don't have options right now, and the people who need a house may need to bring it. They're about to lose the window. They may lose the window of opportunity in terms of being able to see houses for a little while.
Yeah. I will say that the house that we're talking about on the east end of Alameda, like that was the only property that was really on of that size and kind of family capacity, if you will, like the ability to house enough people almost all year on that end of the island. And so the fact that it didn't sort of elevate to an exciting price, like it's fantastic that it got to where it got, but I was sort of surprised. I thought it would have gone a bit higher personally, just given the landscape. And, if it would have transacted 3 weeks earlier, maybe it would have. And we'll never know. We don't have the luxury of that. But I was just I thought that was an interesting change that we can sort of sink our teeth into.
The other thing I'm going to be curious about, because we've seen this trend for so long of like people sort of favoring walkability and amenities and urban sensibility over sort of the hills and the more retreat thing. I'm sort of curious to know if we'll see a little more of the having a little more land or being further away from people.
Social distancing, yes.
A little
Yeah, right.
geographic distancing becomes a little bit more in vogue. I mean, human psychology shifts, and it may be interesting as this all unfolds to see if people start to want to maybe have a little more space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true.
And I think that to your point, Hans, that I think, you know, we were already seeing a trend in ADUs and properties that had the option of multi-generational housing. But I think that's only going to anchor. I think given that when people come through this, they're going to want to have their houses be able to be something that can monetize or have financial flexibility, or I could always rent that space if I had to.
Yeah.
I think houses with those kinds of options are just going to get increasingly popular due to all of this.
Agreed.
Agreed. Yeah.
And Jan, you're even considering doing that on your house, aren't you?
Yeah, in fact, I interviewed a plumber this morning from afar.
From afar.
Yeah, I've got my architect drew plans, and I'm about ready to launch into it. If they can work one by one by themselves in my basement, it'll be just perfect. And all of them are available. Very interesting, huh?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they're all good. You know, I mean, they're very good contractors. So I'm kind of excited, you know, to get that going.
And Jan, have you been talking to any of your other clients about their plans? Because I know you constantly have a couple people who are buying or downsizing or potentially moving out of state. Like, what is your crowd saying right now as you're having conversations with people?
The people I'm working with right now are kind of in the middle budget. I'd say 1.2 to maybe 1.6, and they're being hit by the stock market. They're worried. Two parties in particular narrowly missed out. One missed out narrowly on a bid last week, and then the other one was a huge bidding war, and the price went exponentially high, crazy high. So both parties didn't get the properties, but they were very relieved. And then, you know, in the next couple of days, of course, this whole coronavirus has really escalated. So I think for the time being, they're staying put. They're watching and waiting. I've encouraged them, you know, I mean, you can buy a great house in any market. But again, I think they just want to sit tight for a while. They're definitely still interested and in the ballpark, but now I think maybe they're shifting to getting a perceived bargain of sorts. We'll see, you know.
We'll see. Because that goes back to that supply-demand component we've been peppering through this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've seen with a couple clients is like, this is a moment, unless you absolutely need a house on a buy side, to like take a step back, stay engaged, keep your eye on the ball, but don't totally check out and go into hibernation mode, because this market moves so fast. I think it was on LinkedIn, Mark Cuban, who many of us know as the owner of Dallas Mavericks and a billionaire and philanthropist and all that stuff. He posted something that said, like, no one freaked out when the stock market went up. So just remember, volatility goes both ways, and you have no need to fear it. Like, it's just a change. It's, if it goes up, everyone's happy. If it goes down, but it's like when you really look at the numbers. So if you can take a step back, you know, you don't need to be active per se, but like, don't take your eye off the ball, because something could change in a week that might really work out for you even better than it did before. So the only way to know is to kind of stay in the game.
Stay in the game and stay poised and ready to go.
Yeah. The New York Times Sunday had an article stating in the financial section that this time it really is different. And, you know, it's been so interesting through the years to see people will say with every recession, oh, this one's really different. But in retrospect, they're all kind of the same. However, this one really does feel different because of the housing shortage. You know, and the last one, there were enough houses to buy. There were short sales, REOs, that kind of thing. But now I don't see that coming. You know,
that was a different story then.
Yeah, it is.
Well, and we cannot underscore enough the psychology of people who've seen their stock portfolios, or even if you haven't seen it, people who've witnessed the stock market and it's the insecurity, the volatility of it, move towards real estate. They get really excited to have something tangible for, you know, they made it or they bought this. Now no recession, no stock market dive can take this away from them. They own this, and there is money coming in from this. So potential, there's actually, talk now of relieving mortgage payments and rents for a while, which would probably be a really smart thing to do, so that people don't turn to get too desperate and be able to put food on their table, or turn to crime or some such thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, real estate ownership is just a real psychological anchor coming out of something like this. So that's going to be something that we'll probably find in with our buyers coming forward, is that they really want to diversify if they're too heavily in the stock market.
Mhm. I think so too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great point,
Well,
David.
everybody, that was really fantastic. Any final thoughts that you've been mulling on that you want to share before we sign it off for today?
I think that's it. I think we've covered it. Thank
Yeah.
you,
Stay safe.
everybody,
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
jumping into here. Go ahead, Hans.
Yeah. And anyone who's watching, again, we're going to put this on YouTube. This is going to be on our Facebook page. Comment with topics or thoughts or ideas that are sparked from this. We would love to answer some of those as best we can, or send us direct messages. We're happy to engage one-on-one if that's better for you. So please share your thoughts and share this. And if you get value out of it, let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.